Welcome back to an all-new episode of The Brit and the Yank. I'm the Yank, he's the Brit, and he has got us a special guest today. So, Reese, why don't you tell us what's going on today?
I'm super excited about this one. After asking super nicely as I could, we have managed to land probably my favorite guest so far. I'm sorry, Ben, I love you too. But we have the one and only Mrs. Patricia Tallman, isn't that right?
Yes, and thank you for having me. And it's Ms. Patricia Tallman. I'm not married and happily single. Yeah.
All right, Reese, you got a chance.
Yeah. And I'm really sorry I can't have my camera on, but I just feel too crappy to let the public see me this way.
Don't worry about it too much. It's fine.
Yeah.
So some of your credentials include stunts for a whole bunch of movies. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also some recurring roles on Babylon 5.
Yep.
And Star Trek.
Right.
And the whole reason why I asked. You did some work for Jurassic Park in 92 was production, right? It was 92,
93, I think, is when I was shooting in that.
93.
Maybe. Pretty sure.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong. It was a long time ago. Jeez.
It was around that time. Like I was like 3-4 years old around that time. So.
Oh, stop it!
Two.
Great.
This
is what I want to hear. Oh,
I was a baby. I was an actual, literal baby.
Oh my god!
I did see Jurassic Park in theaters though, so.
It's I gotta say, it's weird, and I know someday, if you're lucky, you guys will be here when you're older, but you don't feel older. It's like, I just still feel like I did when I was 30. So I'm going to be turning 60 this year, and I cannot even kind of get my head around that. That's like such a big number, a big, real number. That's fuck.
Did you say 60 this year?
Yeah, in September I'll turn 60. I'm having a big birthday party in Hawaii.
Oh, awesome.
Hawaii.
Yeah,
man, that's kind
during
of fitting,
Hawaii
right?
Con. We'll talk about that later, but we'll be at Hawaii Con, and I'm very excited about that.
Feel free to plug that if you want. That's all good.
Absolutely, I will. Absolutely.
So what do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about the stunty things you've done, or
let me how about if I catch people up kind of on what I've been doing, because I know people in general kind of know Night of the Living Dead 1990, and they know Babylon 5, and we'll talk about the stunt stuff like you said. Lately I have been running adventure retreats for nerds, so because nerds are my people, and I'm a nerd, and I grew up on all the stuff. The Star Trek, the original series, was really important to me. I used to sit there with my dad and watch it. And I've always read science fiction, fantasy, all those, the books that we love, like The Princess Bride, before it was a movie, believe it or not. It was an amazing book. Lord of the Rings, of course. So I came into this really interesting period in my life about 3-4 years ago, where I just went, I hit a really hard spot. And I was trying to figure out, what should I do now? And I've gotten to this point, and you guys have probably heard that being a woman over 40 in Hollywood is pretty tough. And let me tell you, it's worse than you know about. It's much harder. And I got tired of feeling like crap about myself. And one of the things I love to do is travel, and I love community. I love our people that love what we love, and to have those conversations and to share that experience. Plus, I've been doing all this personal growth work, and I thought, how could I combine this? What happened was I was in Hawaii. I was at the first convention that Hawaii Con put on, and it was just incredible, because if you're on the big island of Hawaii, how bad could it be? And we're having so much fun, and we were doing all these excursions, and I said, they asked me for my feedback since it was their first convention, and I said it was unbelievably fantastic. The only thing I would say you need to do is to have like a mama bear along with your group. Every time they go off to go snorkeling or to go ziplining or whatever, you need somebody in charge, like a cruise director, to take care of everybody. And they said, great idea. Would you do it? And I said, absolutely, I'd do it. It fits in with being a stunt woman and loving to, doing all these exciting things. I'm a certified diver. Of course I would do it. So then I decided to create my own group around that. And HawaiiCon was my first adventure retreat. And it was an absolute blast. So I was online then after that, and I saw that Harry Potter, the next book in the Harry Potter series, was being done as a play in London on the West End. And I stayed up all night in a queue to get tickets. And instead of just getting myself a ticket, all of a sudden I found myself buying 11 tickets. And I thought, if I am this excited that I'm in tears just thinking about it and hearing the Harry Potter theme song, there's got to be 10 other people who will be excited about going with me. Right? I mean, 10 people in the world who would like to do this with me. And sure enough, last November, that's what we did. I put together a whole week in London, and we had an amazing time. So, yeah, that's what I've been doing. And I'm creating a Lord of the Rings one for May 2018. I'm going to New Zealand for 2 conventions this May, and I'll scout it all out and put it all together and put it up online. So, yeah, questretreats.com. That's what I'm doing right now.
Sweet.
And it's amazing. Yeah.
That sounds pretty amazing to me.
How was the Harry Potter play? Because I've read the book, and I don't feel like it does it justice.
No, the book doesn't do it justice. You mean the book of the play, right?
Yeah, the play book,
right.
I guess.
Right. Reading a script is always like that. Because a script has to be very different than a book, right? Mm-hmm. With a script, you're not getting all this. Okay, here's what my acting teacher used to say, that the playwright puts the black on the page and the actor puts in the white. So all the rest of that is being created by the actor and by the set designer and by the lighting and by the music, right? The staging of everybody. So you're not seeing any of that that's going on behind the dialogue that you're reading. Mm-hmm. So I do not recommend reading it. I do recommend seeing it. It's coming to New York City. I'm sure it'll end up going all over. But I have another group going in November. So if anyone would like to join me, I put together an amazing trip, and we have an incredible time. So we will be, the play is really, it's 2 plays actually. It's 2 full plays. Mm-hmm. And the staging is amazing. It's just a beautiful experience. And then we all hung out at the stage door afterwards and got the autographs from the actors. It was really fun. Cool. We dressed up like wizards and witches, and it was so fun.
Well, there's no other way to go to that type of thing.
Yeah. People were taking pictures of us.
It's one of the only places you'd be accepted doing that type of stuff, other than going to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
Which it's basically mandatory, isn't it? If you go to, you have to do it.
The cast was coming out and asking to take their pictures with us because they thought we were so cool. So yeah, it was
awesome.
It was pretty awesome. It was so.
I know it's been chewing Adam up inside that he hasn't got to see that play.
Yes, just being across the sea it's such a major expense.
Yeah.
And I've been waiting for it to come to New York.
Coming to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. It will be there in a year, I think.
I'm gonna have to make that trip. Between that and Book of Mormon and stuff like that, like the new musicals that have been coming out, I'm just gonna have to. Take a week, spend a couple grand.
Oh my gosh, you haven't seen Book of Mormon? It's incredible.
I did. It finally came to Nashville this year, and I got the opportunity to see it there, and it was excellent.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Well, that's why I wanted to see the original cast at the play in the West End. They redid the theater, so the theater's got gargoyles and dragons, and when you're there's some special effects that happen inside the theater, so they've even redone the walls. So it's I knew that it would be special seeing it there.
Yeah.
I was waiting patiently for Hamilton to come over, and it did, and tickets sold out
immediately.
Forever. It opens in London in October, I think, and the tickets went on sale December. And they were gone in seconds for the whole run. So I ain't never seen Hamilton ever in my whole life.
They usually have those they usually have like the last minute ticket sales at the booth? You can sometimes get them.
They have cancellations, yeah, but you have to pick those up physically, and it's a giant expensive risk because you might not get one.
I see. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I've already got a trip to London in June for a concert, and that's costing a considerable amount of money. But at least I know there's something happening when I get there. You know, if I got a train and...
Yeah, and London it's not like, you know, there's nothing to do in London. So I've just come to the place where spending money on experiences is way more interesting to me than spending money on clothes or boots or, you know, a new couch. I just would rather go and have an experience of a lifetime. And that's what I want to create for other people, is a life-changing event, something that you are going to be so glad you did that you can't even imagine. You know, so that's why
cause.
it's not just a trip. It is, I mean, it's everything, and I take total care of you, from picking you up at the airport to where you're going to eat. And in London, I hand you an Oyster card so you can get around, and, you know, I take care of everything. Awesome. So, and we have all these special events. Yeah, save up, man. I mean, the Lord of the Rings thing is going to be crazy amazing. That's going to be amazing.
You doing that in New Zealand? Going kind of wandering around New Zealand for a little bit?
Yep. Yeah,
New Zealand's a beautiful place.
So, and I have friends at the Weta Workshop, and I know all these people, so yeah, I'm going to make it happen.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm disappointed now. It's being completely broke, because I want to go New Zealand.
Well, all right, so we can talk about this. Like, what is it that's standing in your way from having the life that you want? And I know that money is a huge thing. It's a huge thing for everybody. You know, how do you overcome that hump where you just feel like, I had that happen. I know exactly what that feels like. And I'm rebuilding from that. Like I said, I went through a bad divorce, and I went through a business partner ripped me off, another job that went south, and it's just, I couldn't have been worse. Just, I almost lost my house. I got on our program. Thank you, Obama. He put in place a program through the banks that helped me keep me from losing my house. But if it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't have made it.
So relieved that wasn't an ironic thank you.
Oh, no. And one of the things that happened last November was right after the election was when my group came in to London. So I made it a policy that we did not discuss politics, because I knew we had a couple people who voted for Trump. And I just didn't want it. I mean, I was so crushed and devastated. I just didn't want to have that in our hearts or minds at all. And I wanted everybody to be able to bond, which would not have been possible had we talked politics at all. So even bus drivers that, picked us up and said, well, what about Trump? I said, no, not going there. Stop the conversation right now.
That's an amazing voice. We won't talk about Trump. Nope.
Yeah.
The bus drivers do that? Is that a regular thing? You get on a bus and then they just look at you and go...
Well, this is in London, okay? This is a London bus driver. What about... They thought it was funny. They're like,
yeah. No,
now you've got Trump.
As an Englishman, I can indeed confirm that the vast majority of us do think it's hilarious.
It's devastating for us. I hope you understand that.
I completely understand. I mean, we just left the EU and I didn't want to do that.
No, what is
so
it?
I guess it's
similar.
Kind of shifting the...
Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard to watch this maniac do what he does and to think that people still support him. I don't understand it. I really don't.
I think we typically try and avoid any kind of politics on the thing. But the vast majority of people watching it probably agree with us. So,
every time we say we're not going to talk politics, we end up talking about politics for
we do
3 or
for
4
hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because everybody that I know that's on the show and on our other show is very much in the fuck Trump category.
It's just we're so affected by it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Sometimes I have been through elections in the past where the Democrats and the Republicans were really not that far apart in policy. They had especially in social. Yes, the Republicans don't want to be in everybody's business, and the Democrats want everybody to be able to do whatever they want. But taxes, we disagree on a little bit, but for the most part, they've been pretty centrist. And then until this election, we're just like, holy crap, now what? This is nuts. It's nuts.
I guess you can take a little bit of solace in knowing that a lot of the really bad shit he keeps trying to do keeps getting shot down.
Well,
that's
slightly,
something.
a little bit. It's something. But I'll respect your show, and we don't have to talk about it anymore. We can talk about other things.
All right. Well, let's talk about you then. How did you get into the doing stunts and stuff like that to begin with?
I fell into it. Boom, boom. I was taking. I loved the swashbucklers when I was young. You know, I loved anything with Errol Flynn or Basil Rathbone. See, I know those were old movies even when I was young. But I loved those pirate movies and anything sword slinging. And so when I ended up in New York City, I took period sword technique classes, nerd, and I met people in that class that were doing stunts professionally. And one day, a stunt coordinator said to me, "Hey, I need a stunt woman who's 5'9" with red hair. You would be perfect. Would you do it?" And I was like, "Sure." I had no idea. I'd never thought of stunts as being something that you got paid to do. You know, I just didn't. It was not in my wheelhouse. But I'd been working as an actress now and then, and I was working in Macy's in the little girls department. And on one day doing stunts, I was falling down some stairs for this actress, and I made like $1,200, and it was more than I made in a month at Macy's. So I thought, okay, clearly this is something I need to look into. And I've met other people in New York that did this. Then I think I did Creepshow 2, and that took me further west. And then when I came back to New York after that, I was kind of like, I really like being out west. Maybe I should look into this Los Angeles thing, because I love the theater, and I'd always dreamt of being an actress in the theater. But it was very hard to get parts because they want to sell tickets. So of course they're giving the roles to actresses who have a resume that people would recognize. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll go to LA and work on becoming a TV or a film star, and then I can do all the theater I want. But I ended up loving Los Angeles and enjoying television and film work a lot. And the stunt work was kind of fantastic because it dovetailed for me with everything else I was doing. But you're pretty anonymous when you're doing stunts. It's not like when I was working with Spielberg, did he think of me as an actress? Absolutely not. He really didn't even know my last name. You know, he saw me dressed up with a blonde wig like Laura, and he just directed me to do the stunt. So it was not a bridge job. It was definitely a second career, and I loved it. I really loved it.
I guess it's a super marketable skill too, to be an actress and also be able to do your own stunts. I mean, if somebody was looking,
don't really. Here's the thing. That if you're acting, they don't want you to do your own stunts. The insurance company doesn't want you to get hurt at all. You know, if you get hurt, you can hold up production and cost them cajillions. So even if it's simple, like our Babylon 5 had a very simple action scene where I was leaping out of the way of something and had to fall into some debris. And they said, "Do you want to do it, or do you want to have a stunt girl?" I said, "Oh, let's hire a stunt woman, because that way she gets a day's rate, doesn't she? She gets to make some money, and sure, let's give somebody else a chance." But when I was doubling Nana Visitor on Deep Space Nine, they wouldn't let her, even though she's a fantastic, she's very good in fights because she's a dancer and she understood choreography. She knows how to make her body do what she wants it to do. If she got hurt, it would be a real problem in shooting around that. So, for instance, one day Tim Russ was playing this Klingon, and Nana and the Klingon were getting into a fight. I was doubling Nana, and when you're shooting a fight scene, you kind of shoot a master shot But to get the close-ups that you're really going to use, you have one setup when you're behind Nana looking at Tim, and you do the fight that way, and then you reverse it so you're behind Tim looking at Nana. When they were behind Nana, that was me. So it was my back looking at Tim Russ. And we had choreographed this to a T, and he was great with it. But as soon as they called action, he got excited. And we a couple of swings into it, and bam, he stepped in and actually punched me full on in the face. And rocking my head back, just bam, popping right in the face. And the stunt coordinator's like, Pat, you need to stop. I said, no, don't stop, keep going. Because it looked so real, right? So we kept going. But when they yelled cut, and I turned around, I had this 3-inch egg on my forehead, this big bruise that popped out on my forehead. And it's totally justified my paycheck for the week, because had that been Nana, how would they shoot around that for at least that day, if not a couple of days?
Yeah.
And they had a TV Guide shoot that afternoon, a TV Guide magazine shoot. That would have been a catastrophe for her. So luckily, it just made me look really good. I was
That's pretty hardcore, man, getting popped.
Getting clocked in the face. Yeah.
It sounds like there's a lot of bureaucracy in Hollywood, and people don't usually get to hear that side of it all that often.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let me know. Tell you what I can.
Yeah, sure. It seems like what we do typically hear, at least on the receiving end from news and stuff like that, tends to deal at least more with CGI artists not getting paid all that much, or not paid at all. I know Sausage Party was one of those movies fairly recently where they just straight up didn't pay them hardly anything, and then if they tried to argue, it became something where well, I guess you don't want your name in the credits then. And stuff like that.
Well,
so.
With a movie like Sausage Party, I just don't. I'm sorry to hear that. That's awful. That's awful. I mean, I guess what's happened now, because the business has changed drastically with having all of these different avenues for films, right? You have all these channels. You have all these. Anyone can shoot a movie practically with very little money, So. Yeah, there can be all kinds of shenanigans behind the scenes. But from my experience and working in the films that I've been blessed to work on, the contracts are all union, and you're protected if you're in a union, aren't you? I mean, that's the whole purpose. So if you get into these other projects that are non-union, yeah, boy, anything can happen, and it's pretty brutal, and often does happen. So yeah, I've been really, really lucky. Yeah. Because I've been in the Screen Actors Guild. Yeah. Keeps me safe.
Yeah, that is kind of the idea, I think, behind the Screen Actors Guild and stuff like that. I know in order to get into it, you have to have so many hours of screen time or something like that. Is that right? Or...
Well, it depends on the union. For the Screen Actors Guild, you need to have so many contracts. So in other words, the first time you get hired on a union film, they can do what's called a Taft-Hartley, which is you don't have to be union, but the next time you work, you have to join the union. So if it's a union job, I don't think, at least back in my day and fairly recently, that it didn't matter about hours, it mattered about the contract. So if you were featured enough to have lines, let's say, or a small part, even a small part, you'd have a contract that you would not have to join the union yet. But the next union job you got, you would have to cough up the union fee in order to do it, to stay in the union. Most actors are excited to be able to join the union, so they're thrilled to, get a Taft-Hartley.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's awesome to hear this stuff from you, because we, as strictly consumers, although Adam does dabble in some amateur filmmaking, you don't hear this side of things. Like I said, you don't hear this. You hear Tom Cruise did this, you hear right. This movie's getting 18 sequels, but you never hear all of that. You never hear all of the actual industry stuff behind it, and it's really interesting.
Oh, huh. I don't think of it as being terribly interesting, but that's because I have to deal with it.
Yeah, you live it, you know. So
I live it, exactly.
It would be categorized as interesting to anybody that's trying to get into the industry.
Oh,
And you know, with most of the people that I know and people that I've worked with in the past, everybody's trying to get their names out there and stuff. And we've all just kind of determined at this point it's all about who you know more so than what your actual quality of work is, unfortunately.
Well, there is a lot of that, yes.
Yeah. But, you know, knowing the logistics of how things actually work and stuff, like, that's the nitty-gritty need-to-know information that people don't tend to get before they decide, oh, I'm going to move to California today.
Right. I did have a business for 12 years, and that was just about helping actors negotiate being new to Hollywood, and how do you set yourself up to win, you know, as opposed to just getting taken advantage of. There's so many services out here for actors. They charge you for everything, from, you know, helping to get in front of a casting director, to putting your stuff online, to being able to see what's being cast. You know, it's just amazing to me how actors are treated. Anyway, without getting too much into that, but I'm boring everyone to tears. There is a lot to navigate when you're here. And so I had a business that was just about helping actors market themselves and make the right choices. And then my business partner ripped me off. So that was part of what I was sort of mentioning 3-4 years ago. I had sort of the last straw, and it had a big crash and burn emotionally. I'm just going, I don't know what else to do. But I loved helping actors. I love helping people in general, but actors is something I knew about, right? So it's kind of where I gravitated to.
I'm surprised you haven't started like a stunt school or anything like that yet.
Well, there are stunt schools. There are great ones out here. There's a couple. Yeah, there's places where you can go to learn what you need to learn. I don't feel qualified to teach the stunt squirrel school.
Stunt squirrel.
Stunt squirrel.
Whenever they make the Squirrel Girl movie, that'll be necessary.
Somebody copyright that phrase right now.
Yeah, but it is. You know, stunts have changed so much too now. I wouldn't even know how to think about that. Basic fights will always, but now with CGI, and you know, it's so interesting. The big action stuff, half the time they're not really doing it. So weird. Back in my day, they really blew you up.
Yeah, nowadays, even stuff like Beauty and the Beast recently, that entire dance scene was like 99% CGI and stuff. So it's not even stunts. It's just basic dance skills are relegated to CGI these days.
Yeah.
There is some stuff that you are surprised to learn is CGI, and that's when it's good, when you don't even know. One of the examples is, Patricia, did you see the newest Jurassic Park movie, Jurassic World? You must have seen it, right?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And Adam, you've seen it, and I've seen it like 11,000 times. But you know the scene where they're in the hotel and they open up the doors and it goes out and shows you the promenade, like the boardwalk?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
That shot of the park is 100% CGI. 100%. Not one part of it is real. And when I found that out, I was like, how much money must that have cost?
Right.
Like, you know, it blew my mind. So even stuff just like that, you know, is I can't really.
Why movies cost so much. People don't, you know, they hear about how much movies cost, and it's the details that you don't think about, and then something doesn't work, and they have to go back and fix it, and I mean, it's just money everywhere. Yeah.
It's expensive stuff. I mean, it boggles my mind to even think about it. But when you think about how much detail there is in those particular shots, how many man hours that must be, is just like I can't get my mind around it. But that's why I'm not doing it as a job. So.
Right.
That's also part of the reason they've moved a lot of the Hollywood filming stuff to like Atlanta and those areas, because it is so much cheaper to be able to, you know, it makes your money last longer to work there.
Right. With tax incentives, And that's this. Different states have different incentives, and Atlanta's been very smart. Atlanta and Georgia been very smart about their incentives, keeping production there.
Yeah, I think with them, it all started with The Walking Dead. I think that was like the real first major thing. I think it was 2010.
Or near. Yeah, it was 2000. Yeah, it was like 2010.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot that show was in Atlanta. I completely forgot. It's like the whole point of the first season is getting there. Completely forgot. But I hate that show. So it's fine.
I don't like zombies myself, so.
I just think it's a bad show.
Well, you did have to go against them back in the 90s. So,
and yeah, I've never gotten over that. I was traumatized by it.
Bad experiences, man. Did you ever work with zombies again, or was that just...
No, not on purpose. No, there might have been a few that showed up on set, but no.
Well, I do want to talk about some of the things you've been in. I want to talk about your story specifically, because you must have a ton of cool stories from working on all kinds of stuff.
Oh, that's nice.
That's what I want to hear. Well, it's got to be true, right? You know, you've worked on all kinds of cool stuff. There's got to be some cool stuff that would entertain simple nerds such as Adam and I.
Oh,
you know?
My people. I guess it's kind of okay. So help me out, because I want to know what you want to know. Like, what do you think is cool?
Well, he wants to know everything about Jurassic Park. So.
I'm saving that for the end, because I could go on for days about that. But there were some surprising things. I was surprised to learn some things that I did not know. You'd be like Austin Powers. Apparently, you did some stuff in that.
Yeah.
What did you do in Austin Powers?
So Austin Powers was fun. Here's a little. Okay. Like in any industry, you know, you've got people that you know, right? You after you work in an industry for a while, you start to know other names, other people in the industry. So I was fortunate enough to have worked for the stunt coordinator, and the stunt coordinator hires the stunt people. Unless a superstar like Tom Cruise has a stunt double he works with all the time, usually the stunt coordinator will hire all the stunt people for a particular project. And of course, when they're doubling actors, they need to take into consideration they want to hire a stunt double that looks as much like the actor as possible physically. You can always put wigs, and you don't shoot their face. So, but the body type, the height, and structure of the bodies, you want to have similar. And I was very fortunate in that I was a good type for a lot of actresses. And Bud Davis, who was our stunt coordinator on Austin Powers, had used me a lot. So when this project came up, he called his favorite stunt people, me and Bernie Pock and a few others, who he trusted. He knew that he could put us in front and say, I need you to do this. And he knew we would do it, that we were tough and that we were professional, and he could put us on a set and that we wouldn't ever embarrass him. Because that's the other thing with in the industry is that that's why they like to hire people with a certain amount of experience, whether you're an actor or a stunt person or a cameraman. They want to know that you're going to be on a set and you're not going to fuck up, because fucking up can mean you're costing a lot of money and it makes you look bad. And they'll think twice about hiring you again because, yeah, Adam brought that crazy woman, Pat, on the set, and she, you know, had a meltdown at lunch, and, you know, we really lost shooting for half a day, and well, I don't want to bring Adam back. God knows what he might bring back, you know? So that kind of, even if it's not entirely true, just having a rumor around you can be a problem. So.
Well, that's the reason I've never been hired for.
So I have been blessed to have some stunt coordinators like Gary Davis on Jurassic Park who trusted me, and Bud trusted me. So he brought me in and I did not believe I would be a great double for anybody on the movie, because Mimi Rogers had a completely different body type, and the fembots all had a certain body type that wasn't mine. But he needed somebody to be a waitress and get punched in the face by Austin Powers. So the curious thing was this small little bit that I had to actually go in and have costume fittings, and they built me a costume. They made this vinyl patchwork costume, very 60s, and it had a little cap. And so what that means for me as a stunt girl is that I got extra money because I had to show up for costume fittings, and that was very nice. You want that because that gives you a couple extra $100. You know, it all adds up every time you have to show up on a set. Usually, too, that if it's an important stunt or if you're doubling somebody, the stunt coordinator would have to put you in front of the director to make sure that the director likes your look or whatever. So in this case, I don't remember having to go and meet Jay Roach. I might have, but I was just being a waitress. I wasn't doubling anyone in particular. In the scene, Mimi Rogers and Mike Myers are talking, and I come up and say, "Can I get you a drink, Mr. Powers?" And he's kind of ignores me, and then he punches me in the face. And Mimi Rogers goes, "Why did you hit that lady?" And he says, "That was no lady, that was a man." And then I jump up, but I'm not me anymore, I'm a man. And, and they have a fight, right? So Mimi Rogers has a fight. That was the first time as a stunt person I had a stunt double, because Gary replaced me as the waitress, and he had to wear a similar costume. But what they didn't give him is they didn't give him pantyhose. So he was standing there, this micro mini in his jockey shorts, and he had to like bend over and fall down and all this stuff. And he's like, "Pat, what do I do? Pat, my junk's gonna hang out." So I took off my pantyhose and I gave him my pantyhose, so at least he'd have pantyhose on to do.
That's ridiculous.
Stuff. It was ridiculous. This is the kind of shit that happens, right? This is a big movie, a lot of money, and they didn't give him some pantyhose to cover up his junk. So
it's the little things.
It's the little things, and you got to take care of each other, right? So Mimi Rogers has these big, long fingernails, and she actually poked him in the eye with one of those fingers. He had to go to the hospital. I was really glad that it wasn't me.
That kind of sucks.
It kind of sucks big time. If you watch that scene, they use the rehearsal. So sometimes when you rehearse a stunt, they'll shoot it as well because it's action. And they shot it, and what happened was, because it was a rehearsal, my cap fell off, and I grabbed it. I'm supposed to be knocked out. But if you watch it, I think they thought it was funny. So they kept it in, that I grabbed my cap. Because then we pinned it on for the actual shooting, because we realized, oh, the cap's going to fall off, we better pin it on. But they didn't like that. They liked it better when it fell off. So that's the take they used as the first one. Yeah. So I was in the second one too, the Jerry Springer Show sequence. And I got I forgot about this. So Dr. Evil and Scott Evil appear on the Jerry Springer Show. I think it was Sons Who Hate Their Fathers segment. And so Scott and Dr. Evil get into a fight, or get into an argument. Dr. Evil's pleading for Scott to love him or something strange like that. And then the audience members sort of jump up and they start a fight. They actually had Jerry Springer, the real Jerry Springer, who I had met before, and then his bodyguards. Have you ever seen the Jerry Springer Show?
It was, like Steve Wilkos, I think, was one of his bodyguards at one point.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're a very distinct type, and they're very super cool. So they brought his real bodyguards, and at one point I jump up onto the back of one of the bodyguards, and he starts swinging me around by the legs, and that was my stunt. But what happened was, backstage, I stand before we start the fight. I was able to. This was cool for me, as I listened to Mike Myers was back there as Dr. Evil, and he was talking to himself, getting ready for his scene, and I got to hear him kind of, do through his actor process, getting into Dr. Evil, and it was really great. He's super talented, and I loved having that little special. I was just quiet, just listening. I didn't want to interfere, but he was riffing on Dr. Evil. First time, this is cool too. When they shoot everything, he would shoot everything exactly as per the script for the first takes, and once they got that. They got it clean on the camera. Then they would riff. Then they would just kind of go off and play and have their creative moments. So I loved seeing that as well. But the first time we stepped out on the stage to do the stunt, there was this cowboy character who was wearing cowboy boots, and I was wearing these little flat shoes, and he stepped back onto my foot and broke it. that blinding pain where you just, you can't breathe. And I had to shoot the rest of the night with this broken foot. Oh, that was painful. And I couldn't really tell anybody because I didn't want to lose the job. I didn't want them to send me home. So, yeah, that's.
I assume they don't pay you for a broken foot. Like, you
they'll
gotta
pay
get your
you for the
own.
day. Yeah, they'll pay you for the day, but then you'll have to go and you have to, that. And that's covered by insurance, but it's ridiculous. I wanted to finish my day. I didn't want Bud to be disappointed in me. See, that's the other thing. Bud had trusted me, and even though it's not my fault that I got hurt, it reflects on me that, last time I worked with Pat, she got hurt, and I just didn't want that on me. So I worked through the night. That was hard. Anyway, I kind of went off on that story a little bit.
No, it's great. These are the kind of stories that we wanted, because the way I see it is when you talk to somebody who, I mean, not that we probably ever will, but when you see conversations or interviews with actors, it's always, then I did this, and then I did this, and then the director is a great guy, and then make sure you go watch it on March 10th, you know what I mean? But when it's people that were just involved in the production in a much smaller way, they can tell you these stories from a different perspective, and it keeps it kind of mythological in a way, you know what I mean? When you hear it secondhand, it's a lot more interesting, because it's not just someone talking about how great they are, it's someone telling real stories and making it seem a little bit more grounded. It's a lot more interesting to hear it that way. That's just how I think of it. But
okay. All right, let me know if I'm getting boring.
You're not getting boring. That was a great story.
With talking about Mike Myers, he hasn't done a whole lot recently. I think he kind of went on a bit of a hiatus. But with the riffing thing, one of my favorite parts of comedic acting and stuff is when they end up riffing. People like the classic comedy greats, like Bill Murray, stuff like that. Like 90% of his lines on Ghostbusters completely just made up on the spot.
Yeah.
And then, Robin Williams, like they've got 100 plus hours of Genie, where he's just talking and riffing and stuff. Legally, apparently, they can't release it or use it for anything, though, unfortunately. But
I feel like when it's improvised, it just makes it feel more organic. Mm-hmm. When you're reading stuff from a page, it's as organic as the writer could get it. But when you allow someone with a great mind like Bill Murray or Robin Williams to just kind of play with it, it always shines more than it did originally, I think.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters is a great example of that, because, like you said, a lot of what Bill Murray says is just off the top of his head, and Bill Murray, he's playing himself in that movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I think it works. And same with Genie, just letting him have a bunch of fun with it, it added a lot more depth and more character to it, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
So one of my favorite films that you worked on, of course, is Army of Darkness. I'm a huge Bruce Campbell fan. So you played the possessed witch in that movie, right? I
did. I was, the witch who was stirring the cauldron of soup in the beginning.
Yeah, the one where he stops the guy from trying to reach for her and was like, "No, don't do it."
That was such an interesting shoot. I love Bruce. He's great. I had to audition for that part. I'd already done Night of the Living Dead. And I had to audition for Rob Tappert, who is Sam Raimi's producer, right? Mm-hmm. And Sam was not there. It was just Rob. So trying to audition for that witch part, I was so confused as to, first of all, like I said, they had seen Night of the Living Dead, so they had a sense that I was an actor, I could act. But then to say, then the witch has just a few lines, right? You shall die, you shall never get the Necronomicon. I didn't know what they were looking for at all. So I went in and I'm wearing this maxi dress. I just wore a nice dress. I didn't know what to wear to audition for a witch. And Rob just said, yeah, I just want to, can you just cut it loose? Just do whatever you want to do. So I remember I did something and I almost came to, like I was writhing on the floor, humping the carpeting, screaming, "You shall die!" And I came to thinking, holy fuck, what was I lost my mind for about 5 minutes just trying to like channel this crazy witch. And I got the part, but I had no idea what I had just done. That was so weird. And then when we went, the witch, once I think I went through 4.5 hours worth of makeup to get into all of that. I worked with K&B Effects, who were Greg Nicotero, of course, and Howard Berger. And I knew those guys from Tom Savini days and let's see, Creep Show, honestly. That's where Nicotero and those guys were, what do you call, not even assistants. They were like interns with Savini in those days. So I knew them, and I was in need of money. And I'm thinking out loud, sorry for all the hesitation, but I'm just remembering that they had to build they did a plaster cast of my upper torso from like my shoulders up to build the witch on that head. And then they built the witch, and then they said, "Patty, we need to," and I was really skinny. So they said, we need someone to, we need to cast a whole body and build the deadites on that. So they gave me that day so I could get a day rate, make a little money, and they cast my body, which I had to lay like the flayed man on a big X, just like in Game of Thrones, while they cast my body. And they were able to put me in, because they had done that, they put me into the army. So I shot as the witch, but I also got to be in the army, which was more money, which was very helpful in those days. So let's see. So the witch, that was hard. I had a hump, I had a whole body thing I had to put on. They put hands on me with these raggedy nails, and I had to have contact lenses. So I couldn't pee because I couldn't use my hands with these huge nails on them to get out of this bodysuit to pee. I remember that was really weird. Sam and Bruce just wanted me to be again as whacked out as possible. So in the end, Bruce and I have this massive fight, and they squibbed me. Squibs are explosive blood packs for your audience. I know you guys know, but for your audience, they're blood packs with a little explosive behind it. And so they usually put it on a piece of thick leather so that it doesn't bruise whoever it's on, me in that case. And they put him all over my body. He shoots me like 12 or 17 times or something. And he can't kill me because I'm not human at that point, until the last one. And we're doing this massive fight. And oh God, I remember too that they would take the contact lenses out to give me a break, but it would take like 3 guys to jam them back into my face because it was so hard to get them in my eyes. My eyes were so tired. And finally Sam just said, "I don't care how you die, just die, do something." So the only thing I could think of, I was so tired, and we'd been shooting for 16 hours. I just fell forward, I just fell flat on my face, and he loved it. But I really did it because it was the only thing I could think of to do. And later, I don't know how long later, maybe a month later, they called me, Sam and Bruce called me from their car phone, which was the size of a shoebox back in those days. And they left on my, my reel-to-reel answering machine, they left this message. I wish I could have saved it, but saying, "You were fucking awesome. You were our favorite monster ever." It was so sweet. Oh my God. And being a Deadite in that army, we shot out in the desert at Acton, which is north of here in Los Angeles, near where Tippi Hedren had her ranch full of lions and tigers that she had been rescuing, right? So we're out there in the middle of the night, and we've got Deadites on foot. We have puppet deadites. We have deadites holding torches. We have deadites and horseback. Bill Moseley, in fact, is the general from Night of the Living Dead and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, etc. He is the general of the deadites on horseback. And I was a deadite pushing this barrier on wheels. It's like a barricade on wheels. And we're just, we have to wait for hours and hours and hours. Deadites were sleeping on their shields, and everyone's laying down everywhere. We have these masks that pull over our face, and I had a Roman. I was a dead Roman, so I had a Roman helmet with a visor that moved up and down. So I had to keep the visor up because I couldn't see shit. It was down. The smoke from the torches was enough that it got the lions roaring over in Tippi Hendren's ranch, and then the horses were getting spooked. It's because they hear the lions, or they're smelling the lions, right? So I'm in the front line because I'm a walking deadite, and they've got then the torches behind me, and then they've got the mounted deadites behind that. They're in the back, and in the castle in the front of us, they're shooting flaming arrows at us. Most of those arrows are on strings, and they're effects. And then there's a big moat in front of this set that's the castle. So we hear Sam on the megaphone going, "All right, you deadites, we want you to be, you are the nastiest army. You're gonna tear them apart." This is how he directs. He is the sweetest little guy you would ever meet. He is so unassuming and so quiet, but when he's directing, he turns into a whole other guy. He became this, he was just, wow. We're like, okay, all so wrapped up and inspired to be whatever it is he's asking us to be. So he yells action, and we start moving, and almost immediately I hit a bump, and my visor slammed down, bam, over my face, and I couldn't get it up. I couldn't make it go back up, and I have to keep moving because I'm one of the barriers, and we're supposed to stay in a line. The two barriers right on either side of me are puppets being pulled along. So they're not having the same issues at all, obviously. And I have to keep up with the puppets. I mean, then I hear thunk, thunk, and I realize that these arrows, these flaming arrows, are hitting my barricade. They didn't tell me that was going to happen. I'm in a highly flammable suit. You have to understand that everything I'm wearing is like latex and paint, and it's just, the smell from this alone was flammable. And we're hearing the horses starting behind us, and they're getting nervous, and I hear the actors on the horses going, whoa, 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 like they're having trouble. And I think, I'm right, this horse is going to come right up my backside because it's right up behind me. And they're shooting arrows at me from the front. We're all just trying to keep moving the best we can. And I don't even hear action until finally I just stop hearing, or I don't hear cut. I don't hear anything. I don't hear anybody else moving. I don't hear any more thunks. And I stopped. And I struggle out of my whole headpiece. And I look around. Everyone has stopped yards behind me. And I was right at the edge of the moat. I would have, next 2 steps, I would have gone bam, right down into the moat. And the whole front of my barricade was on fire from all of the arrows. I just standing there going, okay, thanks, guys. What's happening? Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, adds a whole another kind of level to that scene, doesn't it? When you realize somebody almost got set on fire and drowned at the same time. Yeah.
But there's hundreds of us out there, so it's not like it was, they also over to on my left, facing the castle, were a whole bunch of puppets that they were puppeteering and working with and shooting, and so that was really where most of their focus was, I think. And then they had some long distance cameras getting the army marching in, but they couldn't take us in individually, and I don't know that they just didn't realize that I was about to go over into or they just thought I was a puppet. It didn't matter.
Yeah, so I've had the opportunity to meet Bruce. Really cool guy. I assume on set he probably acts a little bit differently.
Pretty nutty.
So,
yeah. He's pretty funny. He really is. I saw him in Vegas at a convention, and I went over to his table to say hi. He goes, "Oh, give me some sugar, baby." You know, he's very, he is that guy. I've known him on and off since we were in college. We went to different colleges, but he married a sorority sister of mine. So I've known of him. I didn't get to know him. I don't know that I've ever really could say I got to know him, but I've worked with him on Briscoe County, Army of Darkness, obviously, and we'd seen each other around. He's just a really great guy, very funny, incredibly talented. He's just one of those actors I thought never really got the acclaim he should have. I think he's enormously talented.
I would agree with you, but at the same time, like, Ash Williams is like one of those, like, just main horror characters now.
Sure is.
Like,
sure is. I think though Bruce could have broken into more of the mainstream.
Yeah.
To me, he was so good looking, and he is so good looking, so funny, and a really good actor. You know, he could have done anything.
It's funny, but one of my favorite movies with him in it, other than the Army of Darkness stuff, is The Love Bug. It came out, it was like a 90s remake, and it was never made it to even DVD, I don't think.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I saw it on like ABC's like Sunday night movies one time whenever I was like a child, and it just kind of stuck with me, and I was like, that's Bruce Campbell.
He's just, whenever he's on screen, he's mesmerizing. You know, you really, he doesn't blend into the crowd. There's so much charisma going on there. You know, he's got a lot.
Yeah. Have you tried contacting him or anything about the Ash vs. Evil Dead thing? Because they're trying to get actors from the past movies back on, so it might be worth.
I wasn't in any of the evil. Well, I guess that's true. I was the witch, but I was thinking as a face. I wasn't. I guess I could. I don't know.
Season 3, maybe you could just give them a note and say, Season 3, put a witch in.
You know, maybe the witch shows back up.
I would really love not to have any special effects makeup on. Can't I just be an old zombie killer? Yeah, the makeup stuff, that's rough, man.
Yeah.
It's rough. I was doubling Gina Davis in Long Kiss Goodnight, and and she has such a distinctive broad face. You know, she's got those magnificent cheekbones. So they made a silicone face mask that they put on me as the stunt girl. And every time, I had to come in, I had to be on set first with my makeup artist, and I was the last one to get off set because I had to put on and take off that makeup. It's a thing. You know, it add hours to every day. And I'm very happy not to have that on.
Yeah. I've heard that can be like nightmare-inducing. Like one of the Jim Carrey stories that I remember was like whenever he was working on The Grinch, and it was like 14 hours just to put on all that stuff.
Yeah, right. It's just, it's extensive. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's fun at first, and then it's like, that I always was compassionate for my people on Babylon 5 and my castmates that had to have. Because even when I just had the gills put on for that couple of times, I had the gills, and even just that added hours to my day, and it's tedious, especially when you're a series for 5 years, you know. And Andreas loved it. Andreas, he didn't mind. He felt like he was more handsome as Jakar. He became very flirty as Jakar. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one of those things that I don't think people trying to get into the industry really understands. Like, you know, you jump in like wide-eyed and bushy-tailed or whatever, and it's like, you know, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna work on these movies, and it's gonna be like my dream job and stuff. But then, like, once you get into it, a couple years after putting that makeup on day after day after day, you start to realize, like, it is a job.
It is a job.
You're going to end up doing things that you don't necessarily enjoy or even are comfortable with in order to get your pay. Correct.
Yeah, you do. And you don't get, maybe you're not getting that feedback. Like, that's one of the reasons actors love theater, because you're getting, you know, you feel the love from the audience, you're getting reactions, you feel a response, whereas when you're working on a set, there is no response. And sometimes, the director will say, good job, or your castmates will say, oh, that was great. But it's not, it's not the same. And often people aren't telling you anything. I've been on series where they didn't want you to think too much of yourself. So they never gave you a compliment, and all you would hear is criticism. And that's why conventions have become really important, because it's nice for me to feel like I have made a difference in somebody's day because they got to see something that I worked on, and that's really wonderful. But I wouldn't know that if I didn't go to a convention.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're making our day pretty badass right now. That's some instant gratification for you.
Thank you.
I'm having a great time. And we haven't even got to Jurassic Park yet. Imagine what I'm going to be like when we do that.
Oh, no, don't build it up so much.
I think, social media has really helped with that a lot, with, making sure that everybody knows that what they do is deserved and, appreciated and whatnot. Because it's really as simple as going on the Twitter and being like, hey, Bruce, like, you did a great job. Or,
Right. I love that. That's why I have my Facebook page is very important to me. I stay active on my page, and I'm doing Facebook Lives. I try to do that a couple times a week, just because I love the community, and we all, we need each other. I think that's maybe one of my biggest things right now, is believing that people really need each other, and we can't get on by ourselves. So it's important to remember that in the broad scheme of things.
All right, Reese. I know you've been leashed. You've been leashed, but now it's time to unleash the beast, as it were. Go on with Jurassic Park.
Release the Kraken. Okay, so Patricia.
Yes, darling.
I first became aware of your existence when it was pointed out to me about 2 years ago that you were a member of one of the Jurassic Park fan groups I was in.
Oh.
I don't remember which one. There's one that I run, and there was one that I was in ages ago that kind of fell apart and was full of spam and weird stuff, so I left it. I don't remember which one it was. But I remember somebody pointed out to me, hey, Patricia Tallman's in this group. And I'm like, well, who's that? It's like, oh, man, she works at Jurassic Park. And I'm like, what? And I remember, you probably don't, but I remember a couple of years back I sent you a message, and I was like, is it true that you was in this movie? And you was like, yeah, I was. Laura's a super nice lady. And I was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Just that interaction, I was amazed by that. But I'm going to open with the big question, because I've been waiting. And this, don't feel bad if you can't answer it decisively, because it is one of those things that may not have been important, or may not have even been mentioned at the time.
Okay.
But there is a mystery amongst the Jurassic fan community. There are two mysteries, but nobody knows the other one, and nobody ever will know. But this one you might have a little bit of insight on. Now, the theory goes, and this is a myth that's been around for as far back as I've been active in those fan communities. The myth is, originally, Laura Dern's character Ellie was supposed to die. In the scene where she turns the power back on, and the raptor comes out of the pipes, originally it was supposed to grab her. Nobody knows if this is true or not.
Huh.
And that reaction makes me think you don't know either.
I don't. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I didn't hear that. Have you read the book? I mean, is it in the original book that she dies?
No, she lives in the book. But the rumor / myth is that she was originally supposed to die, and somebody kind of pointed out that it would leave the movie on a terrible downer ending, and it was changed. That's pretty much as far as the myth went. And nobody really knows the answer to that.
I wonder if I still have a script. I don't even know that I got one. But it probably would have changed by the time I got it. I don't know, but I'll keep my ears open. If I ever see Laura again, I ran into Laura a couple of times, not too long ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, and she said, "Hey, we're doing another one. They're doing another Jurassic Park." She said, "Laura, I could be one of the dinosaurs. I don't think I can be one." She was laughing. But if I see her again, I'll ask her if she knows anything about that.
I guess she might know. I
would assume she would be the one to ask.
There's a chance she might know. I don't know.
There's a I don't know if she's allowed to say. I mean, would it be one of? You're saying Spielberg doesn't want to shed light on this?
No, the thing about Spielberg is his whenever he makes a movie, and you'll probably agree with me or know of this already. Whenever he makes a movie, whichever version you see in the theater is the version, and he. Not really a big fan of going back and dragging out deleted scenes and outtakes. Not really a big fan of doing that because he doesn't.
We're talking about the past. Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't like going back and changing things. And as a result of that, a lot of scenes that are confirmed to have existed in Jurassic Park, and some of them even filmed, have never seen the light of day just because he doesn't like, doesn't like changing things after the fact. He likes to leave things as they are. Apart from E.T., but we won't get into that. But yeah, one of them was recently confirmed by Sam Jackson. Adam, I think we saw that video where he did the most Googled Sam Jackson questions, right? When somebody asked how did he die in Jurassic Park, and he confirmed that they had built a set for his death scene, and Hurricane Iniki destroyed the shit, and they didn't get a chance to film it because of that. So his death scene should have been in there. That's confirmed now, but it never happened because natural disasters and stuff. But It's just the rest of the gaps that we're trying to fill in now. But I think this particular one might remain a mystery for a little bit longer.
Well, I can see if, like Gary Davis, who is a stunt coordinator, I can see if he's still around. He's not on Facebook, but I could find out if anyone is in touch with him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna go on a witch hunt to try and figure out.
He's desperate for this answer.
All right, let me see what I can find out. I'm not promising anything, but I'm happy to poke around a little bit.
It would put this to rest. It's been floating around for 15 plus years. It would put it to bed because people argue over this.
It's like 24 years. That movie.
Yeah, 24 years.
Can you believe it? Because my son is 22. So I know that I shot this way before I was pregnant. So, yeah.
That Jurassic Park was a big part of my childhood. Huge favorite movie ever. You can ask Adam. Just the look on his face should tell you everything you need.
He never shuts up about it.
When we went to the theater to see it, I remember our jaws dropping because when we shot it, we didn't know. When we plan out a stunt scene. Gary likes to use little matchbox cars, and he had little plastic dinosaurs. So he'd say, "Okay, Pat, you're in the Jeep. Brr, here we go, and here comes the T-Rex." Brr, and so he's showing me how it's going to go, and that's that's all I saw. And then when we were shooting the scene in the rotunda, they were shooting some raptor stuff with the guys in the raptor suits. So the raptor suits were incredibly intricate. These poor dudes would be inside the suit with their arms plastered to their sides. So basically, the head is, 2 feet over their actual head. And they really were blind and deaf. So they would have earbuds in, and they would be receiving directions that way. So they knew when to bend down or take a step forward and then everything else was remote control. The turn of the head, the eyes, the hands, everything was remote controlled. So you would have maybe 4 or 5 puppeteers per raptor. And these guys have Nikes on. They don't have raptor feet. They have Nikes because they're not shooting the feet at all, So that's all I saw. And I would sit and watch that because it was fascinating. But we didn't know, those scenes when they were out in the field and these dinosaurs oh man, that was so cool. I'll never forget that. It was like sitting in the theater with the first Star Wars and the Death Star is going over your head, or the first Imperial ship is going over your head. You're just like, oh my God. It's so cool.
Well, I grew up with those movies, especially the first one. I saw the first one when I was 4, I think. Didn't get to see it in the cinema until it was re-released in 3D in 2013. And I made the pilgrimage into the city and bought my ticket, and I was like, oh, the whole way through, just because I've seen it on a TV screen countless times, but seeing it on a 100+ foot 3D screen was fantastic. And I can only imagine what it was like for people to see it in the theaters back then when there was no precedent for that kind of thing. Because before Jurassic Park, it was only really like Terminator 2 that had been pushing CGI stuff.
Oh,
and then the year after Jurassic Park comes out and has actual legit dinos in it, and people lose their shit. Yeah, and they really knew how to tease that too, because the original trailers had no dinosaurs in them. If you go back and watch them, they don't show a single dinosaur, and even the poster, all it is black and the logo, and they tease the shit out of it. You know?
Right.
So it was masterfully done, because they knew what they had, you know, even before it came out.
Well, and the whole reason that CGI still holds up today is because they still used actual puppets for, like, just about everything, and just CGI'd kind of over it. So you got, like, the shadows perfectly right and stuff like that, so it looks more real. And back in the 90s, you know, that was probably the peak of what they could do at the time.
Absolutely. It was. Yeah, I mean, I saw the T-Rex head. I saw the actual built dinosaurs, and they were amazing. So, when they shot the big stuff, and I think wasn't there a Stegosaurus that they had too? That was a puppet.
Triceratops.
It was
Triceratops.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, those were practical. They were practical robot puppets, and then the CGI was so well done. It was really, I mean, yeah, you're right. It was cutting edge. Much better than the little plastic dinosaurs that we were using to imagine. The T-Rex I worked with was a big, long stick, you know, maybe 15, 20 feet high, that was metered off red, white. And at the top of it, it had a big white disc nailed to the very top that had a happy face and teeth on it in Sharpie. And that was, you know, how they shot. They showed me where my first position look was, and then second, and then third when it hits the side of the Jeep, and, you know, that whole stunt scene that we did. So I had no idea it was going to look like the terrifying beast that it was. That was pretty phenomenal.
I'm trying to remember some of the things that would have been you in that movie. So the three that come to mind is, like you said, the Jeep chase. The scene where Ellie is dangling from the skeleton at the end, that would have been you too,
That's
right?
me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
I climbed down. I was the one climbing down on all the bones too. They didn't have her do that.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
That was scary.
And the other one, I'm probably missing a bunch, but the other one that comes to mind is when Ellie is sprinting through the jungle to the maintenance shed. She's like jumping over branches and grabbing things and swinging around.
Right, I think that was Donna. Donna was her first stunt double, and then Donna had, I can't remember the reason, but that's when they brought me in, right after that.
So they shot that scene before the chase and the... I can't process that.
Yeah, movies are shot out of order, Reese.
I try not to think about it.
Yeah,
it confuses me.
It confuses us too, believe me. No, I think the first thing I shot was the Jeep sequence crashing through the branches and escaping the T-Rex. And then we came back, seemed like a long time later, and we were actually on the Universal lot to shoot the rotunda and the coming down the scaffolding and on the dinosaur bones and then all of that. So we first rehearsed that extensively to figure out how we were going to actually do that. And I don't like heights, so unfortunately that was, you know, and of course because I like heights, and I'm the girl, I had to go the furthest along. I'm dancing along the bones, the backbone of a brontosaurus to get to where my position was the furthest along the skeleton. They have the kids just have to climb down and get on, and then R.A., who is doubling Sam, just comes in to, you know, a little further in, but I had to go all the way down the spine of this beast and negotiate past these wires. It's got wires suspending it from the ceiling, right? So I have to squeak around those wires, and there's no room to do this. You know, it's quite dangerous, and there's nothing, you know, we're just doing this. We're actually doing it. So but the part, once I got around the wires, and of course, again, since I'm the girl, she's wearing shorts and a tank top, right, with a little tie shirt. Everybody else has long pants on, and they could put pads on and protect their skin, but I couldn't. And as I get around to the last, I have to drop onto my front and grab around the tailbone, which is going to break away, and start spinning. And I flip upside down, and it spins around, and then I drop to the ground, right? So we figured out the best way to do all of that. And again, go back to, you don't want to admit when you're hurt. You don't want to ever look bad and be a problem for anything. But I knew, and I think I was actually wearing sweatpants to rehearse in. At least I was trying to cover up and protect my skin from these bones, which are plaster of Paris or whatever they were. But when I got home that night, I had bruises that were the worst bruising that I had ever had and still have ever had in my life. They were black, and they were all over my calves, my inner thighs. It looked like I had been beaten, and my arms. But my arms, we could kind of, that she had on that short sleeve shirt. So I went in early because I knew this was going to be a problem. She's wearing shorts, and I knew my legs were horrifying. So I went in early to makeup. They were still setting up, and I said, look, you guys, I don't want to freak you out, but I'm going to need some extra time. You're going to have to figure out how to cover this. And I took off my sweatpants. I had on shorts underneath, and they all freaked out. So they were like, oh my God. And they put in a special emergency call to get this body makeup artist to come in. And they woke her up at 5 a.m. because this was like at 4:30 in the morning. And they brought in my stunt coordinator. He was like, oh my God, why didn't you tell us you were getting, I said, I didn't know it was doing this. And I put on ice packs, and I put on vitamin C pack, try to get this bruising down. There was nothing I could do, but they did a great job because you don't see it. If you look in the movie, you don't see it. I had a picture of it somewhere, and actually the special effects guys came in to take pictures before for reference. They said, this is too, we want to know what these bruises really look like. I'd love to. I have a picture of some gnarly bruises on Long Kiss Goodnight. I can send them to you if you want to see them. But that day, the shooting of it, Spielberg comes in, and I'm standing next to Gary, because Spielberg says, I want to talk to you about something that we're going to, I just saw a movie last night. I saw Home Alone, and there's this scene where the bad guys go crashing through, and the camera follows them crashing through all the way to the floor. Can we do that with Pat? So he wants me to drop 15 feet onto the floor. The floor was painted to look like marble. They had an inch thick neoprene rubber on the floor to give us a little give, but still 15 feet. Gary, and I was just, oh my God, we're going to make me fall from up there to down here. And Gary said he by this time has a twitch because working with Steven Spielberg is a bit of a challenge because he gets these great inspired ideas, and of course you want to fulfill them as much as possible, right? Not only do you want to work with him again, but he's a genius, and so if he's thinking of it, it must be super cool. But he's just, got a twitch in his eye. He's like, yeah, okay, Stephen, we could do that. We will kill her, but we can do it. Just standing right there going, oh my God. Stephen's like, oh no, I don't want to hurt Pat. That's all right, never mind. It was just an idea. So
it's one of those moments where you got to get that the crash pad thing down there on the floor.
But he wanted to shoot it from above, so you'd see me falling. Because that was what the Home Alone shot was, right? Yeah. So what we did instead was I did a short fall. I think it was like 5 feet. And when we shot it with Laura was so cool to work with. Like I said, she was such a trooper and so normal, just like a normal, nice person, as opposed to some strange Hollywood person with it. I don't know where they get their ideas, but she couldn't have been nicer. So we shot all of our stuff, and then to put Laura in, the stunt doubles will stay with their actor and work as a sort of safety and just to keep an eye on your actor. You don't want them getting cut or bruised at all, right? Because again, it's continuity. that Bruce can't show up previous. It's one thing if we were shooting all in the same sequence, but she might have to go earlier, and that bruise wouldn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So we want to keep them safe, and they're some of them can be delicate flowers anyway, and you don't want to piss them off. So I put my pads on her where we could that wouldn't show, and I showed her kind of how to flop in. They had her actually fall in from her knees, but they don't shoot her knees, so you just see her torso kind of going bam, and then she curls up into a ball, and all of the bones are supposed to come crashing down around her. So what we did was, the camera's very tight on the floor. We see her upper body from, say, her waist to her head flop into scene, and then all these dust and bones kind of strategically are sprinkled in around her by the prop guys. And these prop guys were on this particular shoot, for some reason, they were very large American men with the sort of the plumber thing going on, like with the hairy belly sticking out from their shirts and the butt crack showing in the back. And they have buckets of bone and dust that they are going to be sprinkling around her when she flops in. There's a bit of tension on the set. We're getting to the end of a long, long day, and we had to wrap it up. You know how it always goes. And so Laura's trying, she's really in her head. She really wants to do it right. And I said, Laura. She said, what? We're kneeling next to each other, so we're waiting for camera to say they're ready. And I said, look at these guys. And she kind of looks at the prop guys. She said, yeah. And I said, they're all waiting to bone ya. And she just laughed. Thank God she laughed. Kind of broke the tension for a little bit. Yeah. She was awesome. She
seems like a super nice person. Got a very bright face.
When I met her, and like 20 years later, I run into her at this very Hollywood party, and she was being, she had been nominated for her show Enlightened, and Julianne Moore was talking to her. Julianne Moore is this tiny little thing, and Laura's 5'9", lovely. She looked amazing in this green dress, and I just was waiting to pay my respects and to say hello. I didn't expect her. I know she wouldn't remember me, and when she met me, I had a blonde wig on. Why would she remember me? So she kind of sees me over Julianne Moore's head, and she went, oh my God! And Julianne Moore kind of turns around looking very annoyed, and Laura went, this is my stunt double on Jurassic Park, Pat! It's so good to see you. I could not believe she recognized me. I couldn't believe it, much less that she would interrupt a conversation with Julianne Moore, who was completely pissed off and stalked off and went away. And I was like, okay, Tiny, see you later, you midget. And she was so sweet. She was so sweet. But that just shows you, what an amazing person she was. So not Hollywood, very real. And I'm happy for her with any success she has. She deserves it.
I mean, they even got her back for the alleged third movie.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, she just kind of sank right back into it. She fit that character perfectly. Like having read the books and all of that stuff, she to me she is Ellie. I have never seen her in anything else because every time I hear about her in something else, I avoid it.
She really, she was amazing and Enlightened.
Well, you got to remember, I was 4 when I saw that movie, and that's an age where you don't know what an actor is. You see a movie and you see Sam Neill as Grant, and you see Wayne Knight as Nedry, and you see all these people and you think that's who he is. And then when I saw Wayne Knight in Space Jam, I'm like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
it didn't make any sense to me as a child. So and I kind of carried that into my adulthood. That anytime a member of the cast from one of those movies is, I kind of try and not avoid it, but I like to just think of them as those people. So
I understand.
Maybe it's just a weird thing for me to do, but I do it.
I understand. I like when I love an actor, like I love Tom Hanks. If I ever heard something awful about Tom Hanks, I would be so disappointed. So I try not to read anything that might. I don't want to know. But I actually did meet Tom Hanks, and I did hear that he is as awesome as you would hope he would be. I worked on Forrest Gump. I did stunts on that. That was another Bud Davis movie. Austin Powers, and he was the stunt coordinator for Forrest Gump.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. Completely.
I mean, similar with Tom Hanks, like, obviously he's such a huge actor that you see him in everything, you know. And but to me, he's always been Paul Edgecombe from The Green Mile, always. Just because that was the first thing I saw him in when I was a young'un, you know. And it's the one role that I specifically kind of assign to him whenever he comes to mind.
Yeah.
I think for me it's Splash. Was that the movie? Yeah, the mermaid movie.
Oh, he was so good in that. I mean, I love him. He's just someone I whenever I think of someone I would love to work with, it would be him. It would be him and Laura. Yeah, that would be kind of a
shout out to Tom and Laura.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, apparently Tom Hanks was in my city probably about 6 months now. But he got a flat tire, and then he ended up putting out like a tweet or something that was like, "Thanks to all the people of this town."
Oh,
they were like so nice because like 7 people stopped to try and help him change his tire,
oh,
like not knowing who he was.
Oh, isn't that
cool?
That's the best. Yeah. Wow.
That wouldn't happen here.
No,
they'd take the rubber off your tires and leave you where you are.
Oh shit!
You wouldn't get no help.
Yeah. Like, I live in the South, so it's like, it's very conservative politically, but, you know, if you are a member of the South, you get that Southern comfort, Southern hospitality thing and stuff. And it doesn't really matter what your political views are until you start talking about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody's pretty nice down here. It's a stark contrast from what I hear about like Hollywood and how people tend to act towards each other, especially if you start talking about like A-list versus like D-list and stuff like that. But they also say never to meet your heroes because they'll probably disappoint you.
That's sad, isn't it? I don't like to think that could be true, but sometimes it is, I guess. But not with Tom Hanks. He was lovely. He really was. Yeah.
I wasn't quite finished with the Jurassic Park stuff.
You don't have to be good. Okay.
Then again, I'll never be finished with it, so somebody will have to cut me off at some point.
All right. Well, we're going to be closing in on the hour and a half mark. So,
well, the poll is 1:48, isn't it? Call's 1:48.
Yes, but we didn't start actually recording until about 15 in.
That's true. Okay. So we got what, like half an hour? 20 minutes?
I guess it's really up to Patricia. How
yeah,
long
it's
she wants
your
to keep
call.
answering your questions.
I only have one more, but it depends how long you read on it.
Okay.
I just wanna hear some more of your stories from your time on the production. That's it. Anything at all you had fun doing there? Any fun stories about other people involved in the production? Anything you want to talk about?
It was really it was a new one for me because I don't think I'd worked on a movie that was so wealthy, and I mean wealthy in the sense that the cast and crew were treated so bloody well. As an example, the first thing I shot was, like I said, the Jeep scene with the T-Rex, and in a movie like this where they can afford it, they usually have the cast and crew come in pretty early to give everybody a chance to really get ready, right? So it's a night shoot, but we were there in the late afternoon, and this is summertime, so it doesn't really get dark until 9 o'clock. But it was Jeff Goldblum's 40th birthday, so they had special catering. They always had, the catering was phenomenal, meaning that you would show up and there would be food for the crew right away. Normally, you only get food right away if it's considered breakfast. And breakfast could be 2 in the afternoon if that's when your shoot time starts, and you're going to be shooting until 2 in the morning. So that would be breakfast, 2 in the afternoon. So whatever breakfast is, there might be a roach coach, which we called them back in the day, which is a food truck that would have basic breakfast, and they'd make you a scrambled thing or a breakfast burrito or whatever, or a breakfast sandwich, and coffee, and you'd get on with your work. But what they had for us was you could go and you could have salad, you could have these beautiful sandwiches made, you could have breakfast, you could have, I mean, it was like having an entire deli at your disposal, and they had that every day. And that's not including your main meal. That's just the meal to get us going. So as a a stunt person, we'd all go and get sandwiches, these beautiful sandwiches made with everything you want on them, and put them in our gear bags, take them home, because it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then we had, for dinner, the tables were all white tablecloth with candles on them. You have to understand, normally we barely get a tent. You have a plastic table, it's just the bare minimum, right? But they had nice silverware and candles, and you had a cold seafood bar. You could get crab legs or a lobster tail or oysters, and then you could go have carved roast beef carved for you right there. You could go get this, beautiful salad and then have all those vegetable options. It was insane. The only thing they didn't have was wine, because of course we're working, but it was just gorgeous, and my jaw was on my chest, just like, what is this? And then we sang happy birthday to Jeff, and they had all these desserts. They had a cake, but then they had all these different desserts out. It was like a 5-star restaurant in the middle of the field.
It sounds like they spared no expense.
They spared no expense. It was amazing. It was amazing. And then we had to go to work after all that. But it was a lot of fun.
It's hard to believe that Jeff Goldblum was 40 years old in that movie, because,
he's 40.
Even now, he's a straight silver fox. Like, every time I see him, he's an amazingly, attractive man, you know what I mean? Like, even now when I see him, I'm like, there's no way this guy is, 60-something years old.
Yeah. No, very, very fun. Very fun. Yeah. No, I mean, it was a straight up shoot too. There was a certain amount of tension going on. I mean, they really wanted to have it. Spielberg gets a lot of respect, and for instance, I had just come off shooting Star Trek Generations, I think. Yeah. Well, or I was shooting both of them. So, I'd shoot on Jurassic Park, then I'd go away and shoot on other things, and then Jurassic Park would call me back in. So, Jurassic Park called me back in, and we're waiting to do something, and I have the walkie. So, I'm with the stunt team, and I have the walkie, and the stunt coordinator has the walkie, and then all the ADs have walkies. And I can't remember what Gary asked me, but he asked me something, and I said, aye, aye, Captain. Meaning, yeah, we're ready, we got it. And because I had just come off Star Trek, and he actually came up to me a few minutes later, and he was very nice about it, but he said, yeah, no joking around, don't be. I was like, oh, sure, yeah, absolutely, sorry. He said, no, it's cool, but no joking around, we got to be super professional. And it was just kind of, all right, so we all had, there was a certain protocol on that movie, again, that I hadn't expected, because of course we're professional. I'm always professional. But it was just another level, I think, of respect that everybody wanted to show Spielberg. Do you see? And it wasn't that Spielberg would take offense. It was just that they wanted to make sure that we were all appropriate. And it was a little different. I don't think I've been on a movie that felt that formal, if you will. And probably only because we were crew. I don't think the cast felt that at all. I think they were having a very good time and, had a good experience in that, as did I. I mean, I can't think of anything off the top.
Yeah, I can't imagine being on the set with Spielberg would be anywhere close to as difficult to manage as like Stanley Kubrick or something like that.
Right. I never worked with anybody like that, or James Cameron. I can't even think of a director that I worked with that was horrible. These people were everyone I worked with is great. Been really lucky. Some better than others, but for the most part, everybody was good.
Is there anything? Last one.
Yeah.
This
No
is
worries.
for the viewers and for me.
Okay.
Is there anything from the production of Jurassic Park that would surprise people, or that people might not necessarily know or realize?
Well, I find that people are surprised to know that we had no idea what the dinosaurs were going to look like. I think they kind of thought that we all knew, but we'd never seen anything like that. It's like working on Star Wars. They didn't know what those effects were going to turn out to be. It's the first time they were ever done. We had no idea. We just hoped that they would turn out good. let's see. We didn't know we were making, I'm using quotation fingers, Jurassic Park, which is like an iconic movie now. At the time, it was an expensive movie with this high concept that you hope would work out. And of course, the deck is stacked in favor of it working out because you have such a crackerjack team, starting with Steven Spielberg, and a great script. But, we don't know. We didn't know. We didn't know all that great chemistry with the cast. We didn't know how great Wayne Knight would be. We didn't know that Goldblum and Laura Dern and Sam Neill would have such a wonderful chemistry together as a team, that those kids would be so cute. And the stunt doubles for the kids were adults, little people, little adults. One of whom was I think she was just like 4'11", and she was a Cirque du Soleil artist. And the stunt double for the little boy sometime was one of Gary Davis's sons, and the other times he was a little person. So the kids are always doubled by adults, unless it's minor enough that a stunt kid could actually do it. Just a little tidbit there. What else can I tell you?
Well, one of Ariana Richards' stunt doubles actually accidentally had her face in the movie, didn't she? The scene where they climb up into the vents.
You can kind of see her.
Yeah, she looks
I don't
up
think
for
it's
a
an
moment.
accident. They could have cut around that. I think that she looks enough like Ariana that they didn't.
Well, they digitally changed it when it came out on
bit.
DVD. Yeah, when it came out on DVD, they put Ariana Richards' face on it. But on the VHS version and some of the older versions, it's still
You can see it.
Yeah, it's quite clearly not Ariana Richards.
I mean, you can see that it's me. I think in the scenes in the bones, it's not Laura, it's me. And then I remember asking Gary about this. That in the credits they credited me as Patrick Tallman, and I was so crushed. It's like, what? They said they would change it in the second print. I think they have, but. Yeah, the Stunt Women's Association got involved, SAG got involved. It's like misspelling my name is one thing, but changing my gender is another. You know what I mean? It was pretty sad. One of the assistant stunt coordinators was a Patrick, so maybe they thought I was a guy. I don't know. I was very disappointed with that. I signed it, Patricia.
I feel sorry for the person who has to sit there and write out all of those credits.
And check them out. Check them. You have to check them, double check them. I don't know who changed it. I don't know who changed my gender. That's very strange.
Another Jurassic mystery.
Another Jurassic mystery. Who do we blame for this? They put it in the paper. They put it in Variety and Hollywood Reporter. They put an apology in. That was nice of them. They didn't need to do that, but they did. That was nice.
It's a cool gesture, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so now that we're off Jurassic Park, definitively, one last overall question, and this is kind of a question that we try to ask anybody that comes on the show, and it's like, what would you suggest to anybody trying to get into the movie industry, or especially like the stunt fields and stuff like that? Like, what do they need to do to get anywhere?
Well, there's no one direct route. Of course, that's what makes it so challenging. I think is that's why there's no one saying do exactly this and you will be guaranteed to get in. Right? There is no direct route. Everybody has to find their own way. But I would definitely say for stunt people, if you want to be a stunt person, you need to have a skill. You need to be good on your feet. You could be a dancer, you could be a martial artist, you could be an acrobat, you could have any of those disciplines. You might be really good at driving cars, right? You might be like a stunt driver. You might be great on motorcycles or horses, but you need something that you are really good at. And you need to stay physically peak condition. So don't be an addict. And for anything, be able to be and to remember to stay humble always, for everybody, actors, anybody, stay humble. Networking is key. It is who you know, and you're going to have to put in some time because people are going to need to get to know you. So have a fucking job, have something you can do that you can be making money to support yourself. Don't be one of these boneheads that come to town with $2,000 or even $10,000 and think that's going to be enough. It's not. It's not. It's going to take you years. You may get lucky and grab a job right away, and then you won't work again for 6 months. Trust me, that's how it goes. Everybody has this happen. Even Tom Hanks had this happen, where he worked for a little bit and then couldn't get a job for a while. Well, he was really young getting started. So if you're going to, it will happen to you. So have something that you can do to bring in some money and be responsible. And then just network your buns off. Get to know people, be of service, and then you'll figure it out. I think for actors, I mean, it may not be as important for stunt people. I just think it's best to be a well-rounded human being to begin with. Get your education. Don't sound like an idiot. Be well-read. For actors, you have to know books, films, plays. You have to know these things. Don't think you can just show up here and be a pretty face. There are so many pretty faces. There's always going to be someone better looking than you who has better something than you. So you just need to know who you are. That's what makes it different. The people who are pretty can come in and do maybe they'll get something for a while they're pretty, and then what happens is after they turn 30, right? So you want to be someone who has some longevity. Know who you are. Bring what your quirkiness is forward. Bring your identity forward, and stick with it. Find an acting teacher. Stay healthy. Stay in good shape. So I think going to acting class is like going to the gym. It's like staying in shape. Keep working out. Yeah, you can do this. You just be smart.
Yeah. Fantastic advice.
Quality advice, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we are closing out the episode for Brit and the Yank. Feel free to go ahead and plug your stuff again, and we'd love to have you back any time that you're free.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Yeah, I would love people to come to my Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Patricia Tallman page, or you can go to Quest Retreats. That's my other page. I'm at Patricia Tallman on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. Quest Retreats for Nerds on Instagram, or I think there's a Pat Tallman Rocks or something like that. I don't really use that much anymore. But I would love to see you guys. I'm in the middle of creating a membership group for people who want to really, have a badass life, and that's coming forward, plus my retreat to London, and I'll be posting my retreat to New Zealand soon. I am going to be in Hawaii if you're interested in going to Hawaii. So, yeah, come and visit me, and we can talk. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for coming on to the show and giving us the inside information that we're so desperately hunt for every week.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks a lot.
Let me know when it goes so I can post it for you. I'll share it. Let me know when you're ready, and I'll share it around.
Yeah, we'll. I'll get Reese to shoot you a message with a link or something whenever we get it up.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to send you any photos? I don't know if do you post photos?
There was one that I believe was you in Ellie's outfit, stood in front of the gates. Was that you?
There's one of me by the Jeep, and there's one of me with Laura. I have those.
If you could send me the one of you with Laura, that would be fantastic.
All right, I'll look for it. Yep.
Okay. So, until the next time we do this show, and Reese, I'm the Yank. He's the Brit. Sometimes I prefer to be the Brit, but All right.